is one of the founding members of Duran Duran and my first celebrity crush. Well, he's got a new book out called In the Pleasure Groove, Love, Death, and Duran Duran. Please welcome John Taylor. Hi. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, In the Pleasure Groove, baby. How do I get in it? What is it?
Well, it's a good thing to get into, but you know, it can. Yeah, but if you don't get out of it, it can get a little tough.
Have you been living in the Pleasure Groove for all this time?
No, but I spent a lot of time in it, you know, and.
Was it groovy?
It's a good thing. Well, you know what grooves are like. They're good, they're funky, they're sexy, but you know, they're also very repetitive, you know, and they can begin to bore you after a while.
You got bored being a rock star?
Well, that's not just being a rock star, but you know, there's certain aspects of it. I don't think bored is quite the word, but you know, you can have too much of a good thing. Let's put it that way.
Too much of a good thing. Okay, that I can buy for sure. Now, your career is far from over. Duran Duran is not going anywhere.
Right.
And you guys aren't old yet, so like, why are you writing an autobiography right now?
I'm so glad I wrote the book now because we've had such a good groove going on. Actually, the band has for the last couple of years, and I think the love in the band is really strong right now. And as I was writing the book, we were touring All You Need Is Now, and there was a lot of love around. So you know, the love is in the book for the band.
I love that.
Whereas if I'd have written it, you know, 8 years ago, maybe it wouldn't have been.
It would have been a whole different story.
A whole different book.
And if you write it 20 years from now, you wouldn't remember half of it.
We might have to do a rewrite.
I'm hoping that there's another one after this, because I know there's more stories in you.
The other side.
Is there anything that you, I mean, like, are there moments that you kind of, like, wish you didn't have in your memory?
Are there other moments that I wish I couldn't have? That sounds like
if you could erase
for a sci-fi movie of some kind. No, I've had them removed surgically.
You can do that. Men in Black, they can do that.
Well, you know, that's it. You know, writing a book is a very therapeutic process. Catharsis, I think, is the technical term. And it's nice to get it out there and sort of really look at it. It's nice to look back on it. I think I've got enough perspective now to do it without feeling bad about it. Yeah, I know I got up to a lot of really, you know, tricky stuff, but, you know, I was 22, 3, 4, you know, and you would have done the same if you'd have been me.
I am trying to live up to what you did every day of my life. Now, there's one section in the book that I think is very funny. It's the way that they sort of, your managers and your handlers kind of let you know where you were every day. They kind of kept you abreast by slipping something under the door.
Well, the itinerary. I mean, that's not exclusive to Duran Duran. I mean, every rock band on tour has that. You know, and it's the daily itinerary. You know, and it's required particularly for newcomers that are likely to be a little worse for wear in the morning, and they need to be reminded, you know, what day it is, what city you're in, and what the schedule is for the day. I mean, you really do live. Being on the road is a great way of being, because you really take it day by day. And handlers is a good word, because you really are being handled. You're being led from 1 hour to the next, you know. And I think we all find it quite difficult when we get off the road after having had that kind of life for a few months.
You're not getting handled anymore.
No, and the wife, you know, wants to go grocery shopping or something, you know, and you've got to find the keys for the car and the ignition. And
he called the manager for that.
Yeah.
But there was a little number in the corner of that paper that signified something that you learned later.
Right. There was a number in the corner, and the way that I remembered it, the numbers, it was 17, 18, 20. And I didn't find out until, I think that this was our first American tour, and those numbers were apparently the legal age for intercourse in that particular state. I spoke to the tour photographer, actually, from that tour recently. He was reading the book. He said, "Johnny, I remember there was a page where it said, 'Don't even think about it.'" But I don't remember that.
What state was that?
No idea. Rhode Island.
Now, I mean, over the years, I think every woman in the free world has wanted to exchange some sort of bodily fluid with you. But there was one in particular that did. Can you tell us that story?
The Atlanta anecdote.
Yes.
I'm so grateful for that. Well, that was on the reunion
You were
tour.
grateful for this?
Well, I was grateful for the anecdote, because this is one of those questions you get asked a lot. What is the craziest thing a fan has ever done? You know, and we were in Atlanta on the reunion tour, on the astronaut reunion tour, and we'd done a press conference, and I'd got a terrible cold, and I was just streaming into into tissues that I was putting into a waste paper bin under the desk, and we went back to that town 6 months later, and I met a girl there. She said, "Oh, I was the one who caught your cold." I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, I took all those tissues that you were throwing away because I wanted to catch a cold." Well, yes, it is horrifying on the one hand, but I was grateful to it because I now had the anecdote.
Oh, good. And how happy is she?
I thought, now I can write the book.
Right? And how happy is she that she had made it into the book?
Yeah.
Wait till you run into her.
I hear you're in the book too.
Yes, by the way, thank you for bringing that up because I needed to get to that. Here on page 159, you specifically say, "I'm a pinup on thousands of bedroom walls." That would be me.
That's
you
right.
wrote about me on this exact page.
I'm so happy you picked up on it.
Thank you so much for making my life.
Well, it was only fair, I thought.
I thought so too.
Given your commitment.
I gave you a lot of time and energy, blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
Bodily fluids were definitely exchanged. You didn't know this, but they were.
Yeah. But, virtually.
Yes, well, yes. The poster is worse for wear, I think. The one that you signed the last time you were here. Now, the first encounter you had with another famous singer-songwriter was Sting.
Yeah.
I love this story.
Okay.
You're so punk rock.
Well, it was a funny story. I went to see, I mean, when I was 17, I was going to see bands every day of the week, it seemed, and the scene in Britain was so exciting. It was the punk rock revolution. There was a lot of really fabulous new bands coming along, and I went to see the Heartbreakers, who were Johnny Thunder's band, and he was from the New York Dolls, and he'd come over to Britain for the first time, and I was a big fan of his. The opening act was a band called The Police that I'd never heard of, but I used to record. I used to take a tape recorder with me to shows when I was back then, and I would record every show because, as I said in the book, you know, a band that you'd not heard of yesterday could become your favorite band tomorrow. It was really like that. And so I was recording the show, and then Sting, this guy, starts talking to the students. He had a very familiar way with the students, which I didn't like. I had no idea who he was and that he had been a teacher. And then he starts talking about the Heartbreakers. He says, "Yeah, they're coming on next." He says, "But they can't play." Well, I say, "You." He goes, "Who said?" I said, "I did." Because everything you said back then was, you know, had the F word in it. He goes, "No, no, no, it's true, they can't play." He goes, "This is going down on the tape." He goes, "Well, you'll see, you know, you'll see when they come on." But he was wrong, because they were great.
They rock.
And the Police were not yet great, although they would become great. And I was going to tell him the story, actually, when we were on Top of the Pops, and we were playing Ordinary World, and he was playing one of the songs off Summoner's Tales, I think, and we were watching the monitor together, and I thought, I've got to tell him that anecdote. And he turned to me and said, "Well, I wish I'd written that song." So I thought, I'll leave it at that then.
There it was.
1-0, ching.
Thank you so much for coming on. You are absolutely amazing. In the Pleasure Groove, Love and Death, and Duran Duran is available right now. Make sure you guys pick it up. Up next.